Tam, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Shauna.
So I want to start by inviting you to share a little bit about your background and how astrology found its way into your world.
Oh boy, Shauna, that's a crazy story. But yes, let me fill you in. So I have been, I like to say I am Tam and Tam I am your little cosmic pretzel. I'm a little bit sweet, a little bit salty, and I'm maybe even a little crunchy. Going to leave you something to chew on when it comes to astrology. I've been coaching since 2012. I've been doing my own big astrological work, spiritual work really, since about the year 2000, I'd say. So I've been doing a deep dive into myself, trying to peel the onion, if you will. And so, digging deep into the unconscious mind is a really, really huge part of my work. And so I've developed a lot of energy psychology tools, put those in my toolbox, and I use that with my coaching clients on a private basis. And also I do group coaching as well. So it was the year 2018, Shauna, when I went to a friend's house for a little business meeting, and she tapped me on the shoulder and said to me that my business wanted to talk to me. I had no idea what she meant. I had no idea that she was an intuitive person who really was quite psychic. And she proceeded to tell me in this meeting that basically God was bringing together all of my skills and talents, and that I would be writing a book. It would be about astrology. I would do some illustration, and I would just create this product that God wanted the world to have. It was the most crazy experience I've ever had, and it was the most beautiful experience I've ever had. And basically, it was taking my love of astrology and the ancient art of numerology, my gift for drawing and for writing. I've been a writer and an artist for a really long time, and we put it into publishing. And the next thing you know, that year, 2018, my first Energy Almanac was born. And of course, if I'm going to write about astrology, then I better know something about it. I started working with master astrologers, and I started studying and reading books. And here I am today, working currently on the fourth Energy Almanac. I'm starting the writing process for 2022 right now. And that's sort of my background. It's just the craziest story ever.
It sounds very synchronistic and like there was a lot of serendipity involved, which I think when you're dealing with any kind of esoteric or holistic, nature-minded tools, that's kind of how it works out.
That's for sure. I am very much into what you would call synchronistic. I called it a God wink, but yeah, synchronicity is a big part of my life. And this was just remarkable. I really was in a pretty hard denial for a while. I put my face into my hands that day when this lady was reading for me, and I cried. I'm like, no, I'm not an astrologer, and that I'm a coach, and help me be a better coach. But no, this is what the universe wanted for me. This was the thread that I was going to pull, and I did. And it was, that book was born in roughly, I'm going to say 12 to 16 weeks of time. We got the first book born and out into the world, and it got great feedback. So we just kept on rolling with it.
Fantastic. And people can find that book at www.theenergyalmanac.com. And we'll make sure that we add that link into the chat as it's been throughout the event. But the Energy Almanac, from what I've looked into it, it's a very versatile and beautifully illustrated publication that provides a number of ways to help readers focus their efforts, overcome obstacles, and really connect with that cosmic calendar. So before we go into some of the broad strokes of astrology, I'm wondering if you had to pick a favorite aspect of the book, what would it be and why?
Ooh, my favorite aspect of the book. Well, the weekly articles are really good, but I will actually show you probably my favorite pages, because as a coach, maybe even as a human being, I really strive to simplify things. I like sentences that are succinct and not overly wordy. I like sentences that are shorter. I like to keep things as simplified as possible. So I think my favorite page in the book are these overview pages where you have your keywords right here. And then every single week of the month, you get a sentence that says, do this, or and don't do that. It is two sentences for the week that can guide the whole week. So if you never bother to read the article that says why you want to do this and not do that, then you at least have this. It also comes with a little illustration you can see, and it makes it fun. You have a sentence for my coaching processes that you can reference. And then, of course, you have a highlight about the moons. We tell you what the themes are for the moons that are coming up. So really, this page here is so, it really captures the essence of the month in one fell swoop. So that, for me, is my favorite part of the Energy Almanac.
Very cool. I would say, just looking over the overview, the idea that you are able to connect gemstones that will support energetic alignment and yoga poses to also help you to kind of create a balance within your day. There's a lot of correlation with the number of nature-minded holistic tools, and that, to me, it gives you more tools for your belt and being able to reconcile the world around us and a lot of the struggles that we've experienced over the last year with how you can move forward.
I'm glad that you brought that up. And I really want to say that, this book is not all Tam at all, not even close. This is a collaboration. As I mentioned, I do work with a master astrologer. I have a numerologist, a person who specializes in gemstones, wrote the gemstone section. Same thing with essential oils and yoga. And this year we have 2 nutrition writers in the book as well. That's really fun. Like the health coach, she came in and she talked all about digestion and which foods when and why. It's very, very robust, and the experience of the writers is very deep. So there's a lot to be gained.
Definitely. I am looking forward to receiving my copy. I have not quite gotten it in the mail yet, but I'm a firm believer in astrology and being aware of some of those more subtle energies that affect our lives. Now, I know that a lot of people are going to be tuning in and maybe don't have a basic understanding of astrology. So I would love to invite you to kind of give us a breakdown of what it is exactly. Maybe, I know I am a quintessential Gemini, and you talk about liking short sentences.
Curious, the journalist, the communicator. Oh, yes. Good
Indeed. The elevator pitch that'll take you to the top of the Chrysler building. I mean, the whole shebang. So the zodiac, the houses, people may see their birth chart and just think it's this circle with a whole bunch of squiggly lines and pictures and arrows and things going on it. So if you could give us just the broad strokes of how it works, that would be fantastic.
I will be glad to. And I do have a presentation that I would love to put on screen, if that's okay with you.
Most definitely.
Okay, let me share my screen. This will just take a couple of seconds to get this going. And can you verify that you're seeing my screen?
We do.
Awesome. Perfect. And okay, so I love putting these little slides together. They're a lot of fun. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, just for those of our listeners that are in the Zoom meeting, there's a little view options button on the right-hand side with an arrow drop down, and you can choose to view Tam's screen in full screen if you'd like to be able to see the images a little bit more clearly.
Perfect. Thank you for that. So I called one of the reasons I think that God or the universe kind of brought all this to my life, I was doing these sketches called Astro Inklings for a while. They were every month when the moon would come around, I would look at, oh, it's a moon in Capricorn. What does that mean? And I would draw pictures about it. And I started calling them Astro Inklings. So this slide is going to have a few of my little inkling drawings in it. And I thought it would be fun to call it that. So you've already talked about who I am. I'm a coach and a cosmic pretzel. I like to say transformational coach by day and astrologer by night. And really, I want to make sure that everybody understands this. I'm not a master astrologer. I don't pretend to be. I like to say that astrology is an inch wide and a mile deep, and it's probably 10 miles deep. It's such a big subject. But I just want to be clear. Everybody knows I'm not a master astrologer. There are people who are highly and deeply trained in it, and it's so layered and so nuanced that I couldn't possibly learn it all in the last 3 years. But what I can tell you are those simplified sentences that I absolutely love. And so astrology really is just a kind of a map or a guide for what is happening in the world. Each of us, based on our birth time and our birth location, we have a personal astrology blueprint or birth chart. There's also the general astrology that's going on for the entire world. And that's why I say it tells you, astrology tells you what's going on personally and globally. Of course, astrology has been around for thousands and thousands of years. If you think back to Galileo and all of that, they were definitely referencing the stars and the planets, and really indigenous cultures have been studying the stars and the planets and the movement for a very long time. They knew life is cyclical, and they were absolutely using this information. So the struggle is when it comes to astrology, there's just a lot to learn. Like I was just saying, the whole inch wide and a mile deep, there's a lot, and people tend to give up. They'll look at that birth chart that you were talking about. They'll see those circles and they'll say, I don't know what this means. I'm so scared. So again, simplify. So why do you care about really knowing astrology? Is that it really is this guide. So if you know what the energy is of the planet, you will suddenly know why you feel more aggressive or why you're suddenly feeling more compassionate or loving. The planets are large balls of energy that are vibrating their messages out to us. As human beings, we are nothing but balls of energy. Our cellular structure, our physiology actually picks up those energetic vibrations. And that is why you'll know when you're more loving. You'll know when you're more aggressive. You'll know when you're feeling powerful. The planets are actively playing out overhead.
Right. And I think a lot of times people either look at it as this big amorphous concept, or it's just the two lines that they see in Cosmo based on their star sign.
Right. The horoscopes that are very generalized for people. Yeah. And they can be inaccurate. Not inaccurate. They just can't apply to everybody. They just can't, because of the nuances of astrology. They just can't apply to everybody. And so people give up. They're like, oh, that didn't happen for me. So that's like, hoo-ha, it doesn't make sense. But there really is, if you can learn some basic information about the planets, there's so much you can do with it. You don't have to know your whole chart, but know some of the basics and it'll change everything. As I was saying earlier, some planets will create difficulty, like chaos and hardship, and other planets will speed things up or slow them down. We're looking here at a couple little sketches that I drew. Pluto is a really powerful planet, and it's all about transformation. It wants to come in and destroy what it's near so that something new can be born. It's all about that process of transformation. And if you think of sort of like the phoenix rising out of the ashes, that to me really represents Pluto. Saturn is a planet that is puts pressure. It slows things down. It represents hurdles in our life. Knowing this, knowing what Saturn is going to influence, remarkably helpful. Here's
Yeah,
Jupiter.
and
Go ahead.
sorry, the planets, just to interject here, from what I understand, that the ones that are further away, those larger kind of gaseous planets, tend to have a more subtle long-term effect, whereas the ones that are closer are a little bit more in your face and quick to respond to the happenings around you.
That is the absolute truth. So there are generational planets, societal planets, and personal planets. So the generational planets are those larger ones, like you talked about, that are as further out. They take much longer to go around the system, and they affect a generation of people at a time. If you think about Pluto, which takes some 276 years, I believe, to go around, that's affecting literally anybody born in those 276 years all the same way. For like, there's a flavor there, is what I like to say. So Pluto is currently in Capricorn, and it is adjusting and changing a generation of people in the flavor of Capricorn. And we'll talk about what that can mean. It's basically big business and discipline and authority and things like that. So the societal planets like Jupiter, we're looking at here, Jupiter, you're going to feel because she's closer to us, and she is in her orbit is, I think, 20 months or 22 months long. So you're going to feel her changing, that she's bringing to you, and you'll feel her movement. You definitely will. She's the bringer of good luck and hope and optimism. She deals with the legal system. She deals with belief systems. Jupiter and the planet Saturn are societal planets. Society in and of itself is going to feel these planets when they're doing their thing, depending which sign they're in. And as you just said, the personal planets, you will feel personally. They're personal planets. So these include the sun, the moon, Mercury, Mars, and Venus. And most people are familiar when they think about astrology. They've heard Mercury retrograde, the dreaded Mercury retrograde, which deals with the way that we communicate. Wherever Mercury is, you'll definitely know it, because Mercury is about how we think and how we speak, and it's about that our lower mind. And when it goes backwards, it can really throw things for a loop. I'm sure you're familiar with Mercury retrograde, Shauna.
Oh my goodness, yes. But I've come to a better relationship with Mercury retrogrades in that I take those first two letters and say, okay, this is a time for review.
Right.
And, just really looking at things and understanding choices of the past and how they affect the future.
Absolutely. Being that you're a Gemini, you probably feel Mercury very strongly. I'm a Virgo. I also feel Mercury very strongly because this planet rules our zodiac signs. And I too have a lovely relationship with Mercury at this point with the retrogrades. Now that I've studied them and I understand them, a Mercury retrograde is an amazing time to assimilate information. It's a great time to just go in and just start assimilating and reviewing information. And that's really your best use of time for a retrograde. But of course, that's a whole class, isn't it? There's so much to learn about Mercury retrograde. And going back to the reason that you want to care about astrology is because you want to be able to have confidence what you're doing. Knowing ahead of time that Mercury will go retrograde and could throw off technology, it could throw off a contract, because a contract is a communication. Knowing that helps you make your plans differently and better. And the more that I use astrology, the more that I use astrology. The more that I apply these concepts in my life, the more flow that I have. And I've taken it down to extremely personal levels where I know which house I'm actually working in month to month, because everybody's houses are different at different times. And I've mapped mine out so that every year I know when I should be addressing fears, and I know when I should be in my harvest season and showing my products to the world. There are specific times for everything, and astrology helps us to identify those things. So the plan is written in the planets. It's just up to anybody to really, pick up the map. And really, the book that I wrote, the Energy Almanac, is the map for every year. And here's where you really, the rubber meets the road, when you start to understand that planets are, I've used the words personalities and archetypes. Another word is like a character. They're a character in a play. And if you can start to think of the planets as big personalities and characters, now you can begin to get your grip on astrology overall.
I love that idea. It fits very well.
It does. It really does. It makes a lot of sense. So just to look at the ones that I happen to put on the screen here, Jupiter means we're dealing with optimism, belief systems. It's telling us about the legal system. It's helping us to feel hopeful. That's what Jupiter is about. Pluto, as I mentioned, this is a planet of transformation. I want to check my catalyst. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. It is a catalyst for change. That's what it deals with. Mercury deals with communication. It is what it deals with. The sun is the way we shine. It's development of ego and personality. That personality is what the sun is dealing with. Saturn is about limitations, discipline, and devotion. It rules time. These are what Saturn is dealing with. So all of the planets will tell us what they are trying to address.
And it's kind of up to us to allow that energy to manifest in our lives and not kind of push against it.
Exactly. And so I don't have a slide for it, but the next layer of understanding is to think about the zodiac signs as a piece of clothing that the planet wears when it's in its orbit. So I'm going to use the example of sun. As you look at this little chart, you see the sun with the sunglasses, and he's got his little smile. When the sun is in Virgo, so this is the development of personality of Virgo, you can think about the Virgo personality as an analyst. So let's put the sun in a lab coat, and maybe he has a magnifying glass or something. He's analyzing, he's looking. He's got a clipboard and he's checking things out. So the sun in Virgo is going to be about developing that analyzing personality. It's about service to others. We're going to analyze this information and share it with people. Does that help you to understand a little bit about how to understand astrology differently?
I think that's a really good kind of introduction for a lot of people that don't have any background in the concept of astrology outside of those, like I said, those amorphous 2 lines in Cosmo or L, and really understanding, oh, well, I'm a Capricorn, or I'm a Virgo, or I'm a Gemini. It's important to understand not only that main sun sign, as you said, the sun is kind of that analyzer, is kind of the overseer of everything within your purview, but there are so many other aspects involved in creating that understanding of personality and why astrology is so important. You mentioned generational planets, and I really want to touch on that because I know that we are coming up to a fairly significant shift with Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto in Aquarius that is reminiscent of the time that our country was born.
Mm-hmm. That is exactly the truth. These are actually generational planets right here. These are the 3 generational planets represented by the glyph, the little marks these represent the actual planets. So the generational planets that we're dealing with in 2021 are right here. Uranus, which is the planet of innovation and change, is wearing the outfit of Taurus, which is represented by the little bull here. Taurus personality and zodiac is really about gathering and acquiring. It's a lot about money and what we value. So Uranus is going to innovate what we do and think and feel around money. And it's been there for a while. Uranus has been inside of Taurus for a while, and it's going to have some key moments in 2021. We'll say it like that. It's going to have some very key moments in 2021. I'll talk about those in just a minute. Pluto, the planet of transformation, the big destroyer, this powerful, powerful planet comes in and destroys and uncreates things so that something new can be born, is in the sign of Capricorn over here. Capricorn is ruling discipline and big business. It's industrial size things. It's about self-authority. Pluto is coming in and changing the way we do that, like solo kind of thing. It's very alone kind of sign, and it's a little bit stern. Pluto's coming in and changing that. And as we move into Aquarius is about the group. So those are gonna make a big change right there soon. Whoop, I did it again. Try this.
And there might be some people will automatically think the Age of Aquarius and hair and that whole musical kind of vibe of this transition. And I think it's really important to note that the whole of 2020 kind of made us look at with an unflinching gaze the way that things were needing to change and how they would be changing, whether we were ready for it or not. And that energy is definitely represented here.
That's the truth. 2020 really was a year for change, and it was meant to be. It was really the rebuilding and restructuring. And so rebuilding, restructuring, and responsibility were the three key words that we picked for 2020. And that's exactly what had to happen. We needed to restructure the world for the sake of the world. So we restructured how often we're on the road driving, right? We rebuilt the way we do family. We rebuilt the way we do school and medicine. And I mean, everything changed. Really, society changed quite a bit. Saturn was in Capricorn for most of 2020. Saturn comes in and gives us hurdles and lessons to learn. And did we ever? There was plenty of change to happen. And so now that 2020 occurred, now we have this opportunity in 2021 to really change direction and create in a whole new way. 2020 was foundational to starting the real change. Even though it created a lot of change in 2020, the real change occurs this year as we begin to really integrate. And the message, I should say, for 2021 is about being flexible in our thinking, being flexible in willing to change direction. I really, actually, let me hold this up. Let me show you the cover of the 2020 Almanac. It's a tree. The tree was the best thing that I could think of to illustrate that would represent the need to stay grounded and rooted, but be able to move and bend with the change that would happen, and then drop what we don't need. A tree will drop acorns and leaves and dead branches when it doesn't need them any longer. We have to be able to do that. For 2021, that is a key message. You have to have the grace and flexibility that the tree offers.
Most definitely. And it's fitting that Aquarius is the water bearer sign, because you have to flow like water and be able to kind of go with the currents and the changes that come.
What's also really interesting about Aquarius is it's not just the water bearer sign. The glyph for The glyph for Aquarius actually represents invisible waves. Aquarius is ruled by this this sign right here, this Uranus, which I said is about innovation. This planet rules Aquarius, and that means innovation, which is about invisible waves and getting information from higher sources. It represents the higher mind, or we could say intuition. Aquarius is a more intuitive sign. They're friendly, humanitarian, they care about the group, and they're going to get things done their way. They are the rebel with a cause. They're different and proud. And when you think about that, and you're Aquarius, and think about a bunch of planets coming into the sign of Aquarius, you can understand how drastically our world is going to change. We are going to be saying to each other, if it's good for me, it's good for we. You're going to say all for one and one for all. Where we go one, we go all. That is the age of Aquarius. That's what it's about. It's not about long hair and bell bottoms. That was just a song, but it's about freedom and experiencing freedom. That's one thing that rebel with a cause wants, is freedom of choice, freedom to move in the direction that he or she chooses. The age of Aquarius is a very exciting time, and to have Jupiter going in there to open things and make us feel more hopeful is extremely exciting. Now, of course, we've got Saturn inside of Aquarius as well, which is going to give us some lessons. Now, how are we going to do this? Let's time our changes just right. Let's make sure that we have a little bit of discipline as we innovate inside of Aquarius. Am I making sense?
Most definitely. I think that where we are right now, I've likened it to the idea of putting an Etch-a-Sketch in a snow globe and just shaking it. And you have to wait for that snow to settle before you can start to realign your plans.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of stubbornness that Aquarius can bring is like, I want to do it now. This is the plan. This is how it's going. Whereas you also have to take into consideration those concepts of community and social responsibility. And as you said, the me is the we. We have to reconcile that micro concept to the macro. The larger picture is going to be affected when we act locally.
I love that you said that. Each of us adding our individual flavor into the quantum soup is going to be perfect for this year. This is really going to be a year where we need to add our personal innovations and thoughts into the collective for the betterment of humanity. That's what this year is all about. And yeah, we're going to bump up against a few things. And I actually want to reference that for people right from the almanac. I always like highlight and make notes in my almanac. Okay, Saturn in Aquarius is going to, I'm going to circle this so you can see. Oh, I didn't do it. Saturn, I didn't draw Saturn in Aquarius over here, but it's going to come up against this right here, Uranus in Taurus. So Saturn in Aquarius, again, square Uranus in Taurus. So remember, I said this is about innovating the way we do money over here. And Saturn in Aquarius is going to create some tension there. So Saturn is going to have a little bit of obstacle. It's going to create that hurdle that we have to get over as a group of people that we are. Uranus is over here saying, let's change how we do money. And this over here is like, oh, no, status quo. Let's leave it right here. Let's slow down. Saturn wants to slow things. It wants to be really thoughtful and methodical in the way it's going to do things. And Uranus is going, no, let's just change how we do money. So this is going to happen 3 different times in 2021. Let's see if I can tell you. It's going to be coming up in February around the 17th. June 14th, and again on December 24th at the end of the year as we close out 2021. These are going to be moments in time that are going to be a little bit tough to deal with, because one of the major themes, I guess I'll say, for 2021 is status quo or forward flow. We're going to bump up against that question again and again and again. Aquarius is extremely forward thinking. They're ready to go into that next great thing. But there's this status quo edge against it, and that's Saturn. Saturn is like, let's hold back. Let's like, it's kind of dogmatic, and let's do it the way we've always done it. It wants to do what it knows. But Aquarius is like, no, let's go. Let's innovate. So we got some stuff to deal with.
And you mentioned the idea of a square. I want to touch on that a little bit. Maybe we can go in depth into the different modalities and aspects later in the conversation. But when you say square, I think of people squaring up to fight. Like there's a push-pull kind of thing going on.
I think that's a really good way to say it. It simply means there's tension there. And I like the idea of like two planets, one in each corner of the boxing ring, and they're squaring up and they're getting ready, and you can feel the tension. They both want their way, right? And
exactly.
So that's exactly what's going to happen this year. I have a little in each of the energy almanacs. One of the great things about this book is we kind of help you learn astrology a little bit. So there's a square right there, if you can see this drawing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're squaring off against each other right there, creating some tension.
Now, I also want to mention, I had mentioned the energyalmanac.com, but there's also, you have choosebigchange.com, and I think they both lead to the same place. But one of the things that I noticed on the site that you have available that is on my wish list are those moon cards, which I think is a wonderful opportunity for people that are visual learners to really become comfortable with and understand, yes, the moon deck. So many different elements to astrology are beautifully illustrated and really palatable through that system. I know we're going completely out of order, but
that doesn't bother me. That's perfectly fine. Yeah, the moon deck has been very, very popular. And I kept it, again, super simple, trying to keep things in bite-sized pieces so people can grasp it. It's the one card for every planet, one card for every zodiac, one card for the major aspects, and then one card for each of the houses. So what you can do is read the energy almanac and you'll say, oh, the moon is in Capricorn. So you would pull the moon card, pull the Capricorn card, and it's opposing, and then you would pull the opposition card, and then you might say Mars in Aquarius, whatever. And you pull all those cards, and now you can read them, you can take your time with them, and you can reflect and integrate the information much more clearly. I think of them as a reflection tool, although I know people who use this deck for an oracle type of thing. Like, what kind of energy do I need? And they'll pick 3 cards, and it'll be Venus, trine, and it might be, I don't know, Saturn, and then they'll read into it.
So they are very versatile. It depends on what kind of study style you have, what you can get out of it. So that is pretty awesome in my opinion. So now I know that I have, as I said, gone a little bit of everywhere. It's that mercurial nature, I know. But I'm going to go ahead and let you continue with the slideshow and try not to pop in and take us off course too much.
No. We're doing just fine. I wanted to talk about the generational planets, and we have the one that we haven't talked about yet is right here, that I think is kind of important, because this is like the little blessing of 2021. And this right here is the sign of Neptune, the planet Neptune in the sign of Pisces. Neptune has been in Pisces for a little while. It's going to be there until 2026, I believe. Neptune is the planet which is about your relationship to a higher source or to God. So it's all about the development of intuition and spirituality. And Pisces is the zodiac sign that if I were to put it in an outfit, you might put it in a minister's, I don't know what the proper term is for that, a minister's robe with the collar. Like, it's a spiritual person who is very creative, deeply, deeply compassionate. So Neptune inside of Pisces is begging humanity. Remember, it's generational. It's begging humanity to go to God. It's begging humanity to get more spiritual, to listen to our intuition. Neptune in Pisces is going to sextile with Pluto in Capricorn right here. It's going to, as this year moves, I'm going to do it like this. Neptune is coming up to sextile Pluto over here, Neptune over here. And so when something is sextile, it's, I like to call it tickling, like it's tickling and it's bringing an excitement and an enthusiasm. So this could indicate to me that there's going to be a more spiritual, creative aspect to the way we do big business, institutionalized type of businesses, the really governmental type of things. There's going to be a new level of spirituality coming into our lives, into humanity. And couldn't we all use that? Couldn't we use a softer approach to life?
No, most definitely. I am on board with that, and I think that the idea of God being even if you're not really religious or you're more spiritual or just more scientific minded, you can look at it as good orderly direction. It's really taking a look at the path in front of you and saying what is the most sustainable positive outcome and efficient way that I can experience this time.
Right. That's a really nice way to say it, to add the little science piece for those who are less likely to grab that spiritual edge. Yeah, it's, I think 2021 is going to be, I liken 2020 to being at the top of a roller coaster. I'm not a fan of heights, and being at the top of the roller coaster and you're white knuckled, like, what next? And oh my God, I got to go down there. 2021 is going to be much softer. It might be more like being on the Ferris wheel, and you're going around, and there are parts of it that you don't really love, but it gets better, and then there's parts you don't love, and it gets better, and it goes around. And yeah, we have to be flexible and allow ourselves to pivot in thinking, and maybe actually in physical ways. We might have to pivot the way we do things. Opportunity is at hand in 2021.
Definitely, we have that great benefactor in Jupiter, kind of overseeing everything and giving us a little bit of that comfort and security as we move into this almost like a great unknown. People say 2020 is, hindsight is 2020, and that was a big thing. But really what we're looking at now, and I love the Ferris wheel idea, because you get that broader overview and you get kind of that ability to step back outside of yourself and your experience and look at the whole picture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure. I feel hopeful about 2021. For all the rough ride we had in 2020, 2021 will seem a lot easier. And I used to say about 2020, keep your eye on the prize. I kept saying 2020 is about vision, crystal clear vision. We said, keeping your eye on the prize, and not your eye, your physical, but your heart and your intuition. Keeping that on the longer term goal was really what we had to do in order to make our way through what was the craziest of crazy years. 2021 is really that whole flexibility. It's the number 5, by the way. Let's just launch into numerology for just a moment. 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 1 equals 5. So the number 5 biblically represents the word grace. Other forms of numerology will tell you that the number 5 means raw change. People who have a life path number 5 are all about adventure and movement. Oh, I have 5s in my life. I have a lot of 5s in my life. Not mine personally, but around me, people. And the number 5 does represent movement and change all the time. They're doing something different. And that will be the flavor of 2021. And that's why flexibility and grace with flexibility is really a key theme, key message.
And you do go into some numerology with contributions from professionals in that area within the almanac, correct?
We do, absolutely. Numerology is so important. I believe, and this is just Tam, I believe that astrology and numerology were probably the first real languages that God gave us. And that's, again, just my opinion, my spiritual opinion. I feel like, we were put on this planet and we weren't put here to fail. I feel like God gave us the signposts, and they are numerology and astrology. He gave us, there's actually passages in Genesis, I can't quote that, but there's the sun and the stars, and they're there for a reason. They are our guideposts. And so thankfully there were brilliant people who are able to determine what the planets and the stars mean, and now we get to apply it to daily life. Like, this is an ancient art. As far as like the work that I'm doing with the Energy Almanac, this is like bringing this ancient art into modern day life. And if you think, Shauna, about the old Farmer's Almanac, which from like the 1800s that they still sell today, that book is about growing plants and farming plants into having a more abundant crop. The Energy Almanac is about growing people into being more, we'll say abundant, about having a more abundant flowing life that is in sync. So the Energy Almanac and the Farmer's Almanac are very similar. And one astrologer did say to me, she goes, "Oh my gosh, how Age of Aquarius of you." Bringing this information. It's true. Like, it's the Farmer's Almanac was Piscean, and this one is more Age of Aquarius. So, encouraging people to take a more spiritual look, a more intuitive look at their life through astrology.
And then marrying that with the fact that math is really the one true universal language that we have. It doesn't matter what you speak. If you look at the numbers, they all tell the same story.
True. So true. Yes. I hope this is making sense for people. I don't know if anybody has any questions as we're doing this. Oh, so here's just a little pitch. If you need resources, we did already talk about the moon deck. And for anybody who's like wondering even more, like, I'm just going to leave this up as we sort of do some more talking here, Shauna. There's a component to the Energy Almanac that's interesting. And I will honestly say, I don't have a strong understanding about it yet. My understanding is developing all the time, but the 2021 Energy Almanac Master Astrologer is Shelley Enteen, Enteen. She was a big contributor for the book this year. She wanted me to put into the book the moon phases and the solar phases. Now, this is an incredible way to get in sync with the cycles and what's going on with them. So this year's book, I have an entire page dedicated to understanding when should you be planting seeds, when should you be nurturing, when do we celebrate harvest, when do we go back and start doing different work, when do we review and find out what we did wrong. There are very specific seasons for everything that we're doing. And bringing that and adding it into the Energy Almanac has been incredible. And this is true, by the way, of solar cycles, so sort of monthly information, but then the moon cycles, every 28 and a half days, the moon is doing its cycle. And so there's a few days that of every single month that you should be planting or be nurturing or be celebrate, all these different things. It's all logged out and mapped out for you inside the almanac, so you know exactly what to do and when to do it.
Which is so encouraging, because you then can kind of, again, with the idea of shake the Etch-a-Sketch and say, okay, I'm ready to start this next month and really focus on these goals. And I would encourage people to consider the idea of making a kind of checklist or a new moon list of things that they would really like to accomplish. Now, I have some background in the moon phases, but I was not aware that the solar phases were represented in the same kind of concept to give you a form and function and flow for your focus.
It absolutely does. The solar cycles match the lunar cycles, except for the time periods are longer. You know, it's going to be like more like 6 weeks per segment, if you will. I think there are 8 segments in the solar cycle and 8 in the lunar cycle. And so we break all those down. We tell you in January, you're going to be in the first quarter phase, and this is what the first quarter phase means, and this is what you should do. And it explains it all. Shelley did a very, very good, and I just want to reiterate, Shelley N. Teen.
Yeah, we'll make sure to add spellings into the chat and share that information on Facebook after the event. I do want to mention to everyone listening that we will be archiving this conversation. It will be available after the fact for you to review. I know we're kind of throwing a lot of information your way, and I don't want you to be overwhelmed, as we've also invited Tam to join us for more conversations throughout the year, and hopefully to create a better understanding overall of the work that she's doing. So once more, the energyalmanac.com is a great place to go and take a look. A lot of the images that you're sharing, as far as the specifics for what's included in the Energy Almanac, are also on the website, correct?
That is correct. Yes. Yes. What can I help you with next? What would be beneficial for you to understand about this?
Oh, so when we're looking at the overview for 2021, specifically, I would say let's look at the next 3 months and maybe give people a little bit of a heads up of what to watch out for, or what to be excited for what's coming up.
Oh, that is a really good idea. And what I'm going to do is give them the keywords right out of the book itself. And then if you will help me remember, let's talk about the Age of Aquarius in general. And I will review the important page that is the Age of Aquarius for you. But let's start with where we're at. January of 2021, the 3 key words are, and I love this, and it seems to be playing out so perfectly, observation, caution, and resilience. And for those of you who end up getting an Energy Almanac, I can't say this enough. Make sure you write in your book. I always say, against my mother's wishes, I write in all of my books. My mom was one of those who said, no, books are your friends. We don't write in them. But I write in all of my books now that I own them myself. And I take notes about exactly what is playing out when. You'll find, and it's nothing short of remarkable, that weekly, as you read the articles, it will say to you, things will get tense starting on Thursday, and watch what you say, and blah blah blah. And as you go back and make notes, this is what happened on the world stage, this is what happened in my personal life, you will find out exactly what how that planet played out. And you will be really shocked to be able to find the patterns in your world and be able to tell what Saturn is doing to you, what Jupiter is doing to you, or Mercury, all of the planets. So write in your books. I'm just going to share this really quickly. Like these, I don't know if you can see this, my notes are robust. Like we get things right all the time. So when I say to you, this really is a predictive map of what's going to happen, I mean it. And I get emails weekly, text messages, Facebook Messenger. How did you know? How did you know? The planets have a plan. It's all mapped out. All we did was write about it. All right, January. And observation, resilience, and caution. And that has really been playing out on the world stage very, very, very clearly. Let's look at February, where the three words are freedom, finance, and future. So if you remember correctly, we have a financial moment in time that we're going to deal with around, I think we said the 17th or so of February, because Uranus is in Taurus and it's going to square Saturn in Aquarius. So there's going to be that tension of status quo or forward flow. Are we going to change how we do money? We're definitely going to look at it, and it's going to create stir the air, stir something up. So freedom, finance, and future. I think we'll be doing a little forward thinking coming up in February. And in March, our three words are, and you're going to like this, it's like we're going to have some breathing space in March: creativity, action, and manifestation. So that's pretty exciting. And if you want me, I mean, it's so much to memorize, Shauna, I can't possibly memorize all of it. But if you want me to go through, I can pick out a week or two at a time and share something if you'd like me to. How can I carry this forward for you?
I think, well, we know that there is something major happening mid-February, and with everything that's going on the world stage, I think giving people a little bit of insight. There's been a lot of trauma. There's been a lot of people struggling, and so just to pick something out in February that's hopeful and really get in that Jupiter vibe.
Absolutely, let's do it. I can do that. I also want to talk about the North Node and the South Node for the year of 2021. It's really important information. Forgot to mention that before. Here we go, February 11th. It's that new moon. I really want to highlight a moon because a lot of people are paying attention to the moon. Even if they're not doing the monthly astrology, they are paying attention to moons. So on February 11th, we have a new moon and Venus conjunct Jupiter. So I'm going to go to that report. Mark your calendars for February 11th while I pull this up. Get your pencil and pen out right here. I love this report. So this is the new moon in Aquarius, and it's going to right here. Okay, so it's time to set intentions around friendship, group affiliations, hopes, and goals for the future. And Aquarius will give an extraordinary emphasis to all areas of life. All planets are in an unusually tight group between Capricorn and Taurus. So the Pallas Athena, the wisdom warrior, and the planet Mercury, which we already talked about, is about communication, will help us to focus on the future and your aspirations for freedom and all things group oriented. You might feel a deep passion to keep things grounded and preserve your personal worth and possessions. Okay, so think about money, home, food, and aesthetics. That's the Venus-Jupiter piece of this moon. It's safe to feel optimism as Mercury will join Venus and Jupiter during this time period. So that's pretty exciting. Jupiter, the giver of hope and optimism and good fortune and good luck, is going to bring this optimism, all these goodies, all these good things into the Aquarius ideals that you're intending. So that's pretty exciting for February, and that will feel like a breath of fresh air for everybody.
That's really perfect because we have Valentine's Day in February. We have that Venus love going into a situation where you're looking at more of that community and you know, think globally and act locally and really connecting with your community, which is one of the major tenets for Central Hall Commons, is pulling together with the community. So perfect. I am liking that. It's our year.
Nice.
Now, so you mentioned this is something that I have not done much study in, and so I'm really excited to learn about these nodes.
Awesome. Let's talk about the nodes. When I learned about the nodes a couple of years ago, it kind of like blew the top part of my head off. I'm like, they're so important. Why did I not know about these years ago? So the lunar nodes mark a specific position of the moon's crossing over the ecliptic, and they affect us at a societal level. We have a personal north and south node, and we have a public north and south node. And so the south node in your personal chart represents your karmic history, if you will. They're the lessons and the hurdles that you're here to overcome. It's sort of an evolutionary approach to astrology. It's going to tell you where you've been already. The north node is about your karmic destiny. It's your future. It's where you're going to go. So the position of the south node and the north node will indicate at a societal level the flavors. So for 2021, the south node is in Sagittarius. The north node is the exact opposite. It's in Gemini. So here's the deal with the nodes. They're always exactly opposite each other on a chart. So Sagittarius and Gemini are opposites of each other. They're both very much thinking signs, that's for sure, but they represent different things. I kind of like to think of Sagittarius as old and Gemini as new. Sagittarius is more about dogma, and Gemini is more, I'll think about that and make my own way, my own decision, my own choice. So what we're giving up with Sagittarius, or what we're overcoming, is giving up what we thought we knew. Because Sagittarius is all about belief systems and philosophy. They're very interested in religion and higher learning. And what they believe, they believe. We are going to be giving up and releasing and getting over what we thought we knew. Gemini, North Node, our karmic destiny is to get curious, ask questions, think about something in a different way. It's about taking on new information. Our Gemini is going to help us learn something different. And another kind of interesting aspect about Gemini is it has to do with the hands. Astrologically, each of the zodiacs has its own physiological aspect to it. And for Gemini, it's hands. So maybe it's about handing something off. Maybe personally this year you're going to hand something off and not handle that anymore. Or maybe you're going to learn a new skill that involves your hands. That's another aspect of Gemini.
I can definitely attest to the kind of opposites of Gemini and Sagittarius. My mother was a Sagittarius. Okay. I'm a Gemini, and so the way that our dynamic worked is perfect for those planetary archetypes and personalities. So.
Awesome! Oh my gosh, I love hearing that.
It's really cool. That I think that's a really great way for people to understand some of that and to digest the information is look at the relationships in your life, and you can start to see where some of those archetypes and elements come into play with your loved ones and close friends and family, and see, oh yeah, they're definitely a Leo spotlight. You know, like you've got these little key elements that you could start to familiarize yourself with the different zodiac signs.
I am encouraging people who are learning astrology to develop a word bank. The moon deck is the beginning of a word bank, but if somebody is going to like buy this moon deck, get a Sharpie, a black one, and add your own words into each of the cards and develop words that you remember. If I think Virgo and I think perfectionism and analysis, you might see Virgo and think of other words like we're a very productive, hardworking sign, or maybe you think about service to others. Find the words that resonate with you and just begin that way. There's as I say, like the layers are just so deep. There's so many ways to look at all of this. You got to start somewhere. So just find the words that you can remember and relate to. I think that's key. And I also want to go a little bit further on the nodes. Shauna, I think it's perfect. If you don't want to remember like Gemini is my future, Sagittarius is what I'm letting go of, you could write down 2 questions. Like, what am I willing to learn now about the global community? Or what am I willing to release? What do I no longer need to believe? These are 2 questions that you can use to guide the entire year. The nodes are just so powerful in your life.
Most definitely. It's very, where am I now? How did I get here? Where am I going? And how do I accomplish that?
Right. Right.
Or to keep it with a little bit of alliteration, north is now, past is the south.
That's right. That's right. North is now. That's just a really good way to say it. I'm trying to put out here keywords that people can keep grasping onto for the year ahead. Freedom versus constraint. That's another theme that people can use for 2021. I said status quo or forward flow. That's another way to look at it. Freedom is Aquarian. Constraint is the Saturn piece of it. Are we going to stay constrained? Are we going to even stay constrained in our thoughts and our beliefs? That would be very Sagittarian. Like, this is what I think, this is what I believe, and you cannot change my mind. Or Gemini, like, this is what I think and believe for that minute there, but
right.
What can I learn now? What can I take on that will benefit me for the future?
I'm going to put this in my pocket. Maybe it'll come up later, but taking all of that information in stride and kind of turning the volume down on your critical mind.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And really your own personal dogma. I think it's a big year for everyone to consider reviewing their personal dogma and deciding if it's really serving them. I think it's a big, big year to do that, actually.
Oh, I second that.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads us into, because I know we're already running low on time, but you wanted to really delve into the Age of Aquarius a bit. So I want to give you the platform for that.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Good. Because, of course, it's a key catchphrase right now, entering the Age of Aquarius.
A huge change. I mean, these ages last. It's not like the cycle of a planet. The ages have to do with the precession of the equinoxes. Is that right?
Yes. And you're right. They last long periods. Some say 2,000 years. And that's a long time to be in one cycle, if you will. But the time has come, right? We've done a lot of hard work as humanity. And so it's time for a perfect change. And I'm not, again, simplify. So I'm going to give highlights about what the Age of Aquarius is. I do want to preface this part of the conversation with saying there's a lot of disagreement about when did the Age of Aquarius start? Has it really started? Is it really? Most people say we're dipping our toes into the Age of Aquarius in 2021. Some astrologers say we've been in it since the 1970s. So hard to know. I'm going to say, with the work of my astrologer, Shelley and team, that we are really, dipping our toe into Age of Aquarius as we enter 2021. So gentle reminder, the Age of Aquarius is about everything being for the common good, the good of everyone. It's not just good for me. It's also going to be good for Shauna and her group and groups all across it. This is about a very humanitarian feeling. Really interesting. I said that Aquarius is about invisible waves. So we can expect to find the way that we experience invisible waves increasing. There's going to be huge innovation around technology. Uranus, the planet that rules Aquarius, is about technology and innovation. So you can expect more like AI, right? More of that kind of thing, more technology to be in our world. And that means we'll be addressing both the good and the bad of that. Artificial intelligence can be both dark and light. There are, who doesn't love their Roomba vacuuming their room so that they don't have to do it by themselves? That's artificial intelligence. But do we want to go so far as to have a robot checking out our groceries at the local market, right? We'll have to be considering these things all the time. We'll be entering into very high-tech times. Collaboration will be growing. More collaboration, more community. It's one of the reasons I started a group coaching program this year, a higher level and a different level of group coaching. I've done group coaching before. And there will be a constant desire for freedom. Aquarius wants freedom. They want choice. You know that commercial, you are free to move about the country. That feels so Age of Aquarius. We want to be free to do what we want to do. And that freedom, that feeling is going to continue to grow. One of my favorite aspects of Age of Aquarius is about the impact our intuition will have on us. We are tuning forks for God's word, or for a universal word, or for the quantum field, whichever language you want to choose. The tuning fork that we are is going to be alive and well. And if we will slow down, we will find that we really have a lot of information coming at us every day that is intuitive, that we will be able to tap into. It's pure consciousness, and it is really at our fingertips as we move into the Age of Aquarius. And I want to take a minute to reflect on Capricorn versus Aquarius, because we're coming out of a year that was very Capricorn, and Capricorn is self. It is self-authority. It's very alone. It's about learning how to trust yourself alone. And that's really what happened a lot in 2020. We had this quarantine where we had to be separated, and all of a sudden you sort of had to do things alone and think for yourself and feel for yourself. Now we're moving into the Age of Aquarius, which is about, it's us, it's the group, and what can I do for you, and what can you do for me? And you can see how the planets and the zodiacs have this very distinct flavor. We're moving out of Capricorn into Aquarius, where we're all about that collaboration and community. So,
and correct me if I'm wrong here, but the Capricorn kind of overall feelings, that independent and accountability, which we had. So with 2020, we had the situation where we were kind of forced to be indoors, and a lot of the things that we would normally do as natural distractions, the bread and circus, the football games, the being able to go out and, go to the bar, listen to live music, which I personally have felt very deeply, but being able to have those little things that take your attention away from maybe the things in what's known as shadow work and the subconscious, and lessons that you knew you really needed to resolve, but this was more fun. It really got that forefront energy throughout the year. And now we have the opportunity to take some of those lessons and put it to a greater global use.
I love that you said that. Yeah, I did a lot of Facebook Lives in 2020. I was home a lot more, and I called it a spiritual quarantine. Really, it was an amazing opportunity to dive deeper into your spiritual practices, everything from meditation and prayer to yoga and creativity, which is a natural spiritual practice. There were so many opportunities for more solitude for some of us. I'm not saying that was a global thing. Some people really had a hard time managing family and work and everything. I get it, and school. But it really could be a spiritual quarantine for a lot of people. And hold on, I just lost that thread. You just said something that was, the shadow work. Absolutely. And by the way, shadow work is all through this book. For every single week of the year, we tell you what your shadow work could be if you want to do it. Shadow work is when you look at the darker side of what's going on. Darker side of your psyche, darker side of life, darker side of how you show up. Shadow work is very important. And when you can lean in and address it, you're going to make amazing and incredible strides in your life. Shadow work is the crux of my transformational coaching.
So before I have one last question I want to touch on, but before I get to that, I want to ask, I know that you had just completed a class, the 12th through the 14th, and I wanted to ask if you have anything coming up that you would like to share with the audience, let them know, or anything ongoing for those that are going to be reviewing the archive, and just kind of let them know what you're up to.
Oh, thank you for that opportunity. Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, I have the ongoing for the rest of 2021. I am inviting everybody to take a look at my Sync Coaching Club. So this is group coaching. I gave it an affordable price point that includes group coaching calls, which would be similar to this, but it would be more coaching, but we're going to include, it includes astrology and life coaching. And you can do, it involves having private sessions with me, and you get to choose which level you want to play at. That is called Sync, SYNC. And if you will go to my my store, shopbigsky.com, you can just type Sync into the search bar and you will find that product. And that is going to be a really fun way to work together. Your commitment is for 3 months at a time. Every 3 months, I'll say, do you want to keep going or not? And you can decide your level of growth that you want to have in 2021. The other thing is this, I just did a class that was about, it was called 3 Days to Thrive with Astrology. And it teaches you how to take a deeper dive into your personal blueprint with astrology. And I helped people to read their chart and understand themselves deeper. And I'm going to run that class again in February. I will run it, I believe it's the 16th through the 18th. And again, that class is at Shop Big Sky. Search for the word thrive.
Fantastic. And again, before we close, I want to thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your knowledge. I'm really looking forward to further conversations, because you have a wealth of knowledge that really should be shared. So thank you for taking the time with us today.
It's my pleasure. It's been a fun conversation. Thank you for having me.
Now, last but not least, so we've got about 15 minutes left, and I want to give you that open platform, because we just touched on the concept for those that are really struggling with what they've experienced over the last year, with the unknowing of what's coming up. You had mentioned the idea of energy psychology, and I know that a lot of the work that you do is with releasing and kind of unpackaging trauma through different healing modalities. And I wanted to ask how people can start to release that and become ready to receive the gifts that are coming through this year.
That is a big opportunity that you're giving me to, to answer that question is really important. And there's so many really simple ways to begin the process of unraveling yourself. And that's really, really what it's about. So what happens in our brains is that when we're born, when we're little, and we're these little infants, our brains are literal sponges. There is no block, no field, nothing in the way of us taking on information that's going on around us. So when you're, we'll just say 1 year old, and mom and dad are fighting 5 nights out of 7, your little brain is taking in stress. When you're 2 years old and dad loses his job, or mom loses her job, and there's fighting in the house, or mom gets pregnant and there's more stress, your little brain is taking it on. Your brain is feeling the stress. Your brain is making decisions based on the experiences that are going on around you. Your environment creates a belief system inside of you. So as you as you grow, and particularly as you grow from birth to about between 7 and 11, they say, your brain comes clogged with experiences that aren't really even yours. It's dad losing his job, it's mom being unhappy in the relationship, it's a brother that didn't like you and a sister that was always mad at you. All of this information creates a belief system inside of you that says, I don't deserve good things, or nothing great will ever happen for me, or I have to be afraid of money, or there will never be enough money for me. All these stories are belief systems that form inside of your brain. So as you are an adult in 2020 and things start breaking down, these stories, and as you get more quiet, the more quiet you get, these stories bubble up and they start playing out. And you sit here as an adult making decisions through the lens of the little boy or girl that you were. Literally, if this is the lens you formed at 7 years old, then this is the lens you have as an adult. And you're making decisions based on this instead of decisions based on this. And I'm going to actually stop my share in case people can't see that. The filter is formed every story creates like a block in your vision, and the next thing you know, like you're looking through a grungy lens of information and you can't make a clear decision. Through energy psychology modalities, and there's a few of them, you can peel away the stories. Oh, the story about mom fighting, and the story about dad losing his job, and the story about the teacher that didn't like me, and the story that my brother didn't like me, and then the fear I had about money, and then the fear I had about working for myself. All those stories can be peeled away like this fast. I can't tell you how fast it works. And now you can have a lens that is pure and clean, and you can actually change your brain and start thinking differently. So energy psychology are modalities that we use to address the unconscious mind. So, you might be going like, oh, 2020 is the year I'm going to change everything. But your unconscious mind with those 7-year-old stories, no way can you get there unless you pull away that unconscious information. So emotional freedom technique is my number one go-to tool. And what people can do, go to YouTube and type in the word tapping, TAPPING, and start using this process called emotional freedom technique to tap out your pain. Starting there will make you feel better. Trust the process. No matter how goofy you feel doing this, if you want to feel better in your heart, in your mind, in your gut, then you'll do this crazy little process and you'll feel like $1,000,000. That's the start of creating change, is erasing these stories through tapping.
I can definitely attest to that. I've done a little bit of EMDR and EFT practices, and one of the great things about tapping is that it kind of brings you into the now. It brings you that mindfulness, and so you're going through this process, and you're tapping these different meridian points on your body and releasing some of that energy. And you'll notice, at least I did in the process, it takes about 2 or 3 rounds, but if you're feeling anxious, it does help with that because it's bringing you back into yourself. Now, being one with your body and being aware of your surroundings, it's one of the things that I know sensory awareness is used a lot in anxiety and depression treatment, just because it helps you to be here now. I do want to caveat that just by saying, anytime that you're doing any kind of psychological work, you want to have a professional opinion. We're not doctors here, so we're kind of giving experiential, and you have a lot of background knowledge and history in your career with that. So working with you as opposed to just going with YouTube would be beneficial. But the idea.
Don't do traumas by yourself ever. You get support.
Thank you.
Yes. You get held in a space. Don't do traumas. But if you're just feeling anxious, go use YouTube. And here's another one. Literally, this will calm your whole system down. If you just will trace your fingertips around your face, that sensory moment you're having with yourself will calm your body. It will lower your heart rate and slow your blood pressure, and you'll feel better very, very shortly. It's a very fast way to calm your body and get out of fight, flight, and freeze.
And I think we do have a lot of trauma that we're going to be unpackaging and detangling from the experience of the past year. But having a lot of these tools, I think, is going to be helpful for those that are listening now and those that will be reviewing the archive. So again, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a very enlightening experience, very educational and entertaining. I think we had a good time today.
I had a good time today. Thank you for the opportunity to share what I know, and I hope everybody has learned something. I would always ask everybody who watches it all the way to the end, decide right now, what was my biggest takeaway? Make sure that you're capturing what did I learn from this information and use it as you move forward.
Definitely. And once again, we can find the Energy Almanac at www.theenergyalmanac.com.
My coaching website is choosebigchange.com.